Built in 1887, our new Goldammer villa has seen more history than we could ever tell. And yet today, it represents our own history.
No startup capital, no investors, no ads, just vintage watches. And a whole lot of passion made us this dream come true.
We have sold over 2,000 vintage watches in recent years. And not just around the corner. Customers in over 40 countries have found what they were looking for with us. Timepieces with a soul.
So let me take you behind the scenes of Goldammer vintage watches. One of the fastest growing vintage watch dealers in the world. An honest diary about passion, trade, and real life as a watch dealer.
So how did it all start? Some stories don't start with a loud bang. They start with a quiet ticking.
A table, a laptop, my brother Mark with an idea, and a few old watches waiting for new wrists. Just 8 years ago, in 2017, my brother was sitting in his small apartment. Not in a high-rise building with a view of the skyline, but rather unspectacularly between a bookshelf, a Wi-Fi router, and a box of vintage watches. And he just got started. He bought a few watches for around 500 to 1,500 euros, had them serviced by a watchmaker, put them online, sold them, and hoped that maybe someone out there was just as fascinated as he was.
And no one, not even me, could have imagined what this little idea would become. Today, we are based in Bad Doberan, a place that sounds like something out of an old novel. And it feels just like it too. A small quiet town in northern Germany, very close to the Baltic Sea.
The wind not even blows salty, but also slows life down a little. Here the world is still in order. And while e-scooters whiz through cities elsewhere, an old steam locomotive from the 19th century runs through the middle of our town. Yes, really. Not a museum piece, not a decorative gimmick. A real hissing locomotive. And when it passes by, you can't help but think, somehow it suits us. Because we are a team of 9 vintage watch nerds, just like in the books. We discuss styles like others discuss wine. We see beauty where others see only years. And today, our hearts beat in a building that itself breathes history. An old city villa dating from 1887. Red bricks, cracking floorboards, windows like church windows. It's not just our office. It's our home, our museum, our heartbeat.
And so it begins, our story between steam and digital, between the past and the future. Over the years, we've seen a lot.
Rare Vacherons, underrated Universal Genève models, great customers, and we've learned that success doesn't mean chasing every trend. We buy what we love ourselves. And if the market celebrates it too, great. If not, we will just wear it ourselves for now. But how did we do it? What did we learn along the way? And how did we turn selling vintage watches into a real business? That's exactly what I'm going to show you today. Completely honestly, completely transparently.
But before we dive deeper, here comes the moment I've been looking forward to the most. Let's marvel at our new Goldammer headquarters together.
What you see on our old Instagram stories, that was our very first office. A space measuring under 19 square meters, which my brother moved into in 2020. And you can't imagine how proud I was of him back then. Not because it was a palace, but because he worked hard to get this office for himself just 2 years after founding the company. An office that was perfectly formed with everything we need to work. And even back then, it felt kind of magical. But as is often the case when things grow, we grow with them. The team got bigger. The boxes piled up. And at some point in 2024, we were faced with a question: stay or grow? So we started looking around. Properties for rent, old houses, even older villas. Some had charm, many had problems, none had both. Until we discovered this one. This listed brick villa from 1887, designed by the famous German architect Gotthilf Ludwig Möckel. And it blew us away from the very first moment. It was a kind of beauty you can't explain. You can only feel it. Love at first sight.
But then came the question that almost broke our hearts. How could we possibly afford such a huge villa by selling vintage watches? And the answer was surprisingly sobering.
The office space we could have rented would have cost us about the same amount per month as buying this villa financed through a bank. Of course, with a house like this, you are not just talking about the purchase price. There are also high running costs that have to be taken into account. But, and this was our thinking, what we are getting here was priceless. 4 floors, 614 square meters of living and working space, 1,400 square meters of land, and on top of that, a design language from the late 19th century that immediately won us all over. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. The move was, in the true sense of the word, sealed.
And now you come inside. As soon as you step into the stairwell, you will feel it. This is not an office. This is a place with soul.
The wood of the steps is almost 150 years old. Every single step tells its own story, with a creak that is more honest than any co-working space. Finely decorated railings spiral through the light. The walls feature hand-painted marble decorations, as if someone had poured time into paint. Massive chandeliers hang above, heavy with responsibility, and the windows, designed in Gothic style. They let in light like a cathedral of watchmakers' guild.
The house has 4 floors, each with its own character. And the lowest floor, deep beneath all the brick and charm, is our warehouse and our photo and video setup.
This is where we store our first Goldammer product. Leather straps, handmade in Germany. And yes, we're extremely proud of them. Down there is also our photo studio where all the watches are staged for the website, each with its own lighting, its own angle, its own character. And right the next door, my video room, the place where I shoot all the reels for Instagram, shorts for YouTube, stories for you.
And just to be clear, we are not talking about mass production here. No assembly lines, no plastic packaging. Every watch passes through our hands. It is checked, photographed, described with genuine heart.
And then it goes out to collectors, to enthusiasts, to people who still feel that ticking, somewhere between nostalgia and curiosity. But all of this doesn't happen on its own, of course, because even though the watches tick away here, without the people who keep them moving, they would be nothing more than decoration.
So we go up 1 floor to the first floor. This is where the 3 rooms are located, where we not only work, but also love, tinker, argue, celebrate, and sometimes spill coffee.
3 huge rooms with ceilings almost 4 meters high. And they house nothing less than the heart of our Goldammer DNA. Behind the first door, Ronnie's and my office. A workplace where a lot of thinking and discussing goes on. And well, sometimes a little nonsense too. Ronnie joined us in January 2025 and is our e-commerce manager. He makes sure our online shop runs like a well-oiled machine, that the shopping experience is smooth, that you can find us on Google, and that the newsletter doesn't look like it was sent out by an inkjet printer in 2002. Opposite Ronnie is my comment center. This is where everything you see on your screens every day happens. Videos, reels, stories, shorts, wrist rolls for the website, Instagram, YouTube. And the best part, it doesn't even feel like work. I love being creative. And holding a different vintage watch in my hand every day, that's the icing on the cake for me. Let's go next door. There sits Mark, my brother, founder and CEO of Goldammer. He sits at a stately 19th century desk, a real gem. I remember exactly how we found it at eBay in 2020. We drove 1,000 miles by car to pick it up. And honestly, when you fall in love, you drive 1,000 miles for a piece of wood. And of course, it's no different with watches. In one corner of the room, Martin, our sales manager. If you want to buy a watch from us, there's no getting around him. He's our vintage watch gatekeeper, friendly but direct. He advises, he negotiates, always with the goal of ensuring that both sides walk away satisfied, just as it should be. One table over sits Andre, our head of product, who joined the team in January 2024. He's the creative mind behind all our products. He's a perfectionist through and through, right down to the tips of his hair. The development of our first leather strap alone took almost a year to perfect. But he's already working on the next project, and believe me, you have a lot to look forward to. Between Martin and Andre is our Wintergarten, affectionately called the termination room by Mark. But don't worry, no one has been kicked out. Yet. Team meetings, lunch together, loud laughter, deep conversations. This room has seen it all. Then we came to the girl power room, and there sit two women who have shaped not only this room, but my entire life. Say hello to Stephanie, my wife, with us since October 2024. She's responsible for the back office, has the organizational skills of a chess grandmaster and the overview of an air traffic controller. And then there is my mother, Andrea, our head of operations. She's a genius behind everything that the rest of us, let's say, could use some optimization. Especially when it comes to legal matters and my personal nemesis, taxes and finances. Then there is Markus Siems, our article writer. Markus is actually a neuroscientist at a university hospital, which sounds impressive in itself. But the best thing is that he combines the scientific expertise with the world of vintage watches. The result is texts, perspectives, and insights that you've never read before. Really fascinating. And then, last but not least, Christoph Goldammer, our graphic designer. Unfortunately, he's not here today, but he's the man behind everything that looks good at our company. Website, visuals, brand world. He gives Goldammer its face. 9 people, 9 opinions on dial colors, one goal. Today we are one of the fastest growing vintage watch dealers in the world. But, and now it gets exciting, how does it all start? Because success, as we know now, is not a magic trick. It's not winning the lottery. And it's not a stroke of luck either. Success is a mixture, passion, continuity, and a good dose of courage to embrace uncertainty. Because the truth is, I believe that many people are not happy in their jobs, but only a few really dare to change anything. Mark, my brother, had no idea about the watch trade when he started out. He didn't have a sophisticated business model. He just did it. No emergency plan, no pitch deck, no vision board. And the crazy thing, the plan worked. Surprisingly, without any major surprises. Because basically, he wasn't that surprised. Why? Because he hadn't given it too much thought beforehand. But they were 3 questions he asked himself right at the start. And they changed everything. Where do we buy? Where do we sell? And how do watch lovers even find about us? So that was it. The business model. No Excel monster. No consulting concept. Just these 3 simple questions. And that's exactly what led to the business registration in 2018. Mark had already been experimenting with trading used watches privately for a year, since 2017. He had tried a lot of things. And yes, he had also paid for his mistakes. He bought watches on eBay in a price range of 500 to 1,500 euros, had them serviced by a watchmaker, and tried to resell them at a small profit. Sounds logical. But it didn't work. At the end of the year, he was breaking even. But, and this was the real gain, he had built up customer loyalty. People came back. They asked questions. They recommended him to others. And so it became clear. This model had a future, because with every sale he gained experience. And in the vintage watch trade, experience is worth more than any market research. He learned which watches are in demand on the market, which brands are currently underrated, which models are the best left untouched for the time being. Learning by doing, trial and error, doubt, keep going. And then came the big issue, trust. Because as simple and as crucial as it is, only when customers can be sure that all the information about the watch is true, they are willing to pay a fair price. But this trust was difficult to build via eBay or classified ads. Anonymous profiles, poor images, unclear information. So in 2019, Mark took the next step. He started offering watches on Chrono24. There, buyers could rate and compare sellers and understand prices for the first time. A milestone. But even that had its limits. Because if you really want to build trust, you have to be visible. Show who you are. And so it was clear. A website with its own shop was essential. A digital business card, so to say. A stage for our passion. A place where watches are not just products, but stories. And now, let's take another look at these 3 questions from back then. And how Mark answered them. Question 1. Where do we buy? Mark quickly built up a network of dealers and collectors. He specialized in what we call now our niche, or more precisely, the niche within the niche. Very classic vintage watches, far removed from hype and TikTok trends. Today we buy most of our pieces at auctions and European trade fairs. But we are also toying with the idea of rolling out our purchasing internationally. And yes, we know what we are looking for and what we would never take. The second question back then was, where do I actually sell? The answer? Mainly through Chrono24 and our own webshop. In the beginning, Chrono was our entire home base, our marketplace, our virtual shop window. Mark sold exclusively through Chrono, because that was where the scene met. But with every month that we maintained our own website, something changed, bit by bit, pixel by pixel. Sales through our own platform increased, at first slowly, then steadily, then explosive. And today in 2025, we only sell 2% of our watches through Chrono24. 2%. The rest is done through what we have built ourselves. But how do you get people to even look into this world? That answers question 3. How do you draw attention to yourself? The answer is as simple as it is ingenious. Instagram or social media in general. Since 2018, Mark has feeding our community there with everything a vintage watch lover could desire. Sometimes classic, sometimes experimental, always with feeling. By 2020, our page had already 32,000 followers. And every single one of those followers was more than just a number. They were people who felt, looked, and discussed with us. Even back then, Mark was trying to set him apart from the crowd. No generic peg shots, no watches on fur. Instead, aesthetics, light, atmosphere, stories. He staged the vintage watches aesthetically, artistically, like little sculptures, like miniature worlds on the wrist. And that stuck. Today, a few years later, this idea has become a real movement. We have over 400,000 followers on Instagram, and YouTube is also doing really well with 60,000 subscribers. And the best part? It's all grown completely organically. Not a single cent of advertising. No push, no ad budget, no boost button. Just honest work, creative content, and a community that has never let us down. From the very beginning, our goal has been to be as independent as possible from paid platforms. And that's exactly what we are working on every day. With content, with trust, with genuine connection. And we are convinced that this independence can only be achieved through personal customer contact, through proximity instead of advertising pressure. In this respect, social media is a blessing for us, a loudspeaker that brings people together instead of drowning them out with discounts. And yet, despite all our growth and independence, we say quite openly, we really appreciate Chrono24. Without this platform, we would probably have never found our way into the online business. Nor would we have built up the trust that sustains us today. Chrono was our starting point, our launchpad, an important part of history. But now we are flying on our own. So who exactly are we? We are not a number on an organizational chart. We are not a startup with exit plan. We are not an investment shell with a watch shop at the front. We are people, and we talk to people. Direct contact with our customers is extremely important to us. Not because we are nice, but because we believe that this is the best way to reach the younger target group, which is becoming increasingly important. We have built the company the way we would want it to be as customers ourselves. Sure, a little introverted, quite detail-orientated, design-orientated, anyway. Perfectionist but never sterile. And classic, with a quiet elegance that doesn't impose itself. So our target group is very similar to us. And that feels right. It's difficult to pinpoint an exact average age. I would say maybe mid-30s, but it doesn't really matter. Because what connects us is not the year we are born. It's our eye for authenticity. We also believe that many larger retailers are missing out on direct customer contact on the internet. They are still selling to a target group that has long since moved on. And that's exactly where our opportunity lies, our future. Because the younger target group is growing with us. It accompanies us. It discusses with us. It becomes part of our story. And because we know how quickly digital landscapes change, we have long been considering which social media channels should we use next. Not to be everywhere possible, but so that we are not dependent on a single platform. And if you ask us where we want to go, it may not sound modest, but it's honest. We want to become the world's largest supplier of classic vintage watches. Not the loudest, not the cheapest, the best. Now let's move on to something that many love and others fear. Numbers.
But don't worry, we won't turn this into an Excel battle.
Because our own numbers aren't just raw data. They tell stories. Stories of many, many fantastic vintage watches. So many that we wouldn't be able to keep track of all these little masterpieces and their eventful past without a sophisticated accounting system. Because every single watch has its own journey behind it. A different decade, a different owner, a different reason why it exists at all. And at Goldammer, we place particular importance on one thing: transparency. That's why at the end of this little journey, we would like to show you how much we sell, what we sell, and where these watches actually go.
Between January 2021 and March 2025, we moved almost 1,500 watches. Yes, moved, because that's how it feels to us when a watch leaves our premises. Not like a transaction, but like a little farewell.
That's about 2 per day. 2 watches every day, packed, shipped, given a history. And we've grown from 25 to 40 watches per month in 2023 to over 50 pieces per month now. And yes, I love statistics. Like everyone else, when the graph is pointing upwards, but if you look at our latest presentation, you will see that's it not always uphill. Because there's something we didn't expect. Custom regulations and Mr. Trump. We felt it in the numbers, in the shipping, in the feedback.
A customs war also affects small, fine watches like ours. That sucks. And although we can't change that, we are not standing still. We are learning, we are adjusting, and we are telling you that too, openly and without filters.
You can see a world map that I bought last year in January 2024. Each pin represents a watch sold. At first glance, it is clear where the majority of our customers came from: the United States and Europe. As you can see from this graphic, the United States are by far our largest market, accounting for 28% of our customers. Americans had to pay 3% import tax on our watches. Then Trump came along and it was 33%. And now it's going back to 13%. It's hard to predict where the tariffs war will end up. Then the United States are followed by Germany with 12%, then France with 10%, the United Kingdom with 7.6%, and Italy with 2.6%.
But despite everything, our motto remains the same. We don't sell anything that we wouldn't wear ourselves. But which watches were sold?
Overall, our best-selling brands since 2021 are Omega with 20.5% and Rolex with 19.3%.
For us personally, it is a pleasure to be part of the world of vintage watches and to experience first hand how it is developing and expanding is a privilege. At Goldammer, we are just a small wave in the vast ocean of the watch market, but the tides affect us just as they do to everyone else.
To be clear, the changes in our portfolio over the past few years are only partly due to our own plans and intentions. What we do and have always done is stock what we like. And we like watches that are impressive in both design and condition. If the market has nothing better to offer in a particular price range or for a particular brand, we don't buy it. Fortunately, with increasing success and reach, the opportunities to see, handle, and move amazing and rare watches are growing. And that's precisely our goal: to bring the watches we would like to wear ourselves to people who appreciate them and enjoy them every day they wear them on their wrists.
We do things differently here in Rostock. Most of you like that, and we will never take that for granted. You know how that works here. Subscribe if you like what you have seen. If not, maybe see you again sometime. It's a small world, and we will stay connected.